Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our publishing and coaching services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Valerie Alexander, author of Happiness as a Second Language. Valerie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Paul. I'm happy to be here.
Are you ready to get started?
Absolutely.
All right. Question number 1. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Well, the advice actually depends on why they're writing a book. If somebody just has a burning need to get words on paper and wants to have then something to hold on to the rest of their lives, or they can show their mom, then just keep writing. That's all you have to do. Just keep writing, get through it. But if anybody's writing a book because they want to share that with the world, they want people to buy their book and read their book, and they want to be on an airplane and see someone holding their book, then you have to start marketing the minute you start writing. The audience does not find you. You absolutely have to get out there and make them see that you have written something, that you have something worth reading. First off, the number one way to get an audience is to write a great book. Almost all books are read based on somebody else saying, hey, I read this and it was good. So write a great book. Have a professional editor go through it. Have people who don't love you and didn't give birth to you read it and tell you really what needs work and what doesn't. But whatever your book is about, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, you can start blogging about it. Start your own blog. Starting a blog takes 10 minutes on WordPress, even if you know nothing about technology. If you can write a Facebook post, you can write a blog. Get a Facebook page for your book. Start talking about, if it's fiction, start talking about the characters. Start talking about the world and the setting. Get people engaged that way. If it's nonfiction, start sharing some of that knowledge. But get yourself out there as the right person to be writing whatever book you're writing. And when people start thinking of you that way, then that first day that book is available on Amazon, people will go to it and buy it because they'll already be wanting to read it. If you wait until that book is available on Amazon to try to start getting people to want to read it, it's just going to be too late.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
I would say that's expectation. When I first wrote Happiness as a Second Language, I actually wrote the book before I wrote the book Proposal, which is kind of the backwards way to do it. But I wrote the book, a friend read it, and he said, this is really good. You should talk to this agent. That agent signed me, and he was a fairly substantial book agent, and his specialty was he represented celebrities when they then wrote a book. So there were a lot of singers who have books out that he represented them. He represents all the NASCAR drivers. He represents some substantial politicians. And he read this book, Happiness as a Second Language, and thought, oh, she'll build this giant happiness brand, and then I'll just pick up the phone and start calling people and get her to publish the book. And my belief was, oh, he gets this book published, and then I can launch this big happiness brand. And it was just a big disconnect. And he started putting deals in front of me that just were not good. There were a lot of expenses against me in them, and I thought, well, this isn't what I want to do. In the meantime, I have two friends who were publishing their own books, like going straight to indie publishing, and they were doing really, really well, and they were building really big audiences, and they both were saying to me, why are you going this route? Why are you stuck with this agent who's going to take 15% of what you make on these really not good deals with publishing houses that will take 18 months to get your book out? And finally, it just started to make more sense for me to publish independently. Now, I know a lot of people don't want to do that, and I understand people want to go through agents. They want traditional publishing, and if that's what you want, keep plugging away. That still exists in the world. I wanted, one, more control over my book, and two, more financial return. If I was going to have to do all the marketing effort anyway, then I might as well get 70% of the royalties instead of 17% of the royalties. And those are the actual numbers. And so I decided to publish independently. I got a really good editor, professional editor to do it. I also paid for proofreading. I had a professional cover designed. And then I went through Create Space and Amazon, and I published it, and I'm very happy that it went that way.
Yeah, that's a decision I made 3 years ago before I even started my publishing company. I had my first book out, and I wanted to have the creative freedom to be able to publish it as soon as I wanted and when I wanted to get it done. So I had that first book. Within a month, I got it published. Second book was done soon after that. Same for the third book. And I had 4 books out in the first 6 months, and if you would have gone through a traditional publisher, that never would have happened. Those 4 books, it's been like 3 years ever since. It'd still be in production.
I was going to say 4 books would take 6 years.
Yeah.
Because they have an 18-month runway, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, I always had the mentality you must run your book like a business. So you need to have that control, because the thing is, when you have that book out there, depending on what you're going to offer, whether that's coaching, consulting, speaking, any of those type of things, you have the creative freedom to be able to offer what you want without having to go through the publisher. And the best part is you can have it out there as quickly as possible. So I feel that's probably some of the things that you considered when you were getting your books out there.
Paul, I'll tell you a little side story. I'm a professional keynote speaker, and I do a talk on the advancement of women in the workplace. And the title of that talk is How Women Can Succeed in the Workplace Despite Having Female Brains. So it's a little bit of a provocative title. It's a little tongue-in-cheek, but it's based on brain science and all the knowledge that we have about the way brains function now, and that there are gender differences in our brain functions. And I gave that talk. This was several years ago. I gave that talk, and I have Google alerts for everything in my life, and I highly recommend this. If you have a key phrase that's in one of your books, if you have a title of your book, set up Google alerts for everything. So I had Google alerts for the content of that talk, for most of it, and then I got a notice one day that said, I looked at this blog post, and it was literally almost word for word the entire content of my talk on this person's blog with no mention of me. And I took one look at that and I said, over my dead body. But it was just a talk that I was giving, and I'd given it regularly. I was paid to do this. And so I thought, how do I protect myself from this? So I took that talk, I took all the versions of it I had, I distilled them down into a book. The book is called How Women Can Succeed in the Workplace Despite Having Female Brains. And I got it formatted. I sent it into my regular book formatter, the one who handles all the as a second language books. I got a cover designed. I got the ISBN numbers. I put it up on Amazon. And then I sent her a cease and desist letter.
Nice.
So for the blog publisher. But I will tell you, from the day I read that blog post to the day that book was available for sale on Amazon was 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And that would never in a million years have happened if I had to go through anyone else, if I had to go through a traditional publisher, if I didn't already have my layout artist and my cover artist lined up. And that to me was the greatest, the most satisfying thing that happened. But I will share with you, that woman who plagiarized the content of my talk did me an enormous favor, because now that book is probably my bestseller, number one. But number two, I give that talk all over the country. I am constantly getting to sell books in the room, or they get ordered in advance by the organization or the company booking the talk. So I had a company order 1,000 copies of the book for their audience, in addition to my speaker fee. So having control over your own books is everything.
Yeah, I agree completely. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I have people that will borrow concepts out of my books, especially my publishing ones. I even had a student that was in my book publishing implementation program suddenly create a publishing company recently. And I'm going, that's fine. Take my content. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it's you that created the content, and it's you that created the customer service. Because let's face it, when people want to work with you, it's because they know you, they like you, and they trust you, and they want to work with you. It's not always about the content, but when you can deliver those two things together, that's what makes the difference.
Yeah, completely. And I will say, for anyone who has a speaking career or wants to have a speaking career, write a book. I mean, there is absolutely no barrier to entry anymore. Mine's down to a system. The books in the As a Second Language series cost me less than $500 each to get from manuscript onto Amazon, and that's with professional cover, professional layout, editing, and proofreading, and copyright.
And then your marketing obviously would be separate from that.
The interesting thing about the As a Second Language books, what happened with that is I wrote Happiness as a Second Language, and I almost immediately wrote the next book, which was Success as a Second Language. Now, Happiness really came from a place of having a very deep desire to share what I had learned about how to train yourself, how to be happy. It was very important to me. I didn't see the ideas that were in it being shared by anybody else. The whole notion of stop blaming yourself for being unhappy. Stop expecting that you'll read a book and have it happen overnight. You learn it as if you're trying to learn a foreign language, which takes a long time and a lot of practice. And after that, the reason I wrote Success as a Second Language, partly because I'd had a lot of experience in my life and I did feel like I had stuff to share about that, but also because legally you cannot copyright a title. I wrote Happiness as a Second Language. Somebody a month later could have published a book called Happiness as a Second Language, and there would have been nothing I could do about it. You can't copyright a title. But you can trademark a series.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as I published Success as a Second Language, I went and spent a little money and got the U.S. registered trademark on the phrase as a second language for self-help, personal growth, motivation, and inspiration, and self-esteem. Those are my 4 categories. I own that trademark. So now I publish books that other authors write under that banner. So I've published Parenting as a Second Language, Creativity as a Second Language. The next one to come out is Grief as a Second Language. That's actually already done, formatted everything. It's about to go onto Amazon. And I have some more in the pipeline. And so that, to me, is also creating value, a sort of a second level of value. And so when I tell anybody who writes nonfiction, when I meet people who write nonfiction, I always say to them, if you have 1 book in you, you have 2 books in you. And so come up with a title that can be serialized, and then get the trademark on that series. And then don't let anyone else publish. I've actually enforced against people in the As a Second Language space because they tried to publish a book, and I had to say, sorry, I own that trademark.
So they were trying to create a second language series or just a second language book?
No, there's a series. There's 5 books in the series right now.
Gotcha.
I wrote 2 of them. I wrote Happiness and Success. Elizabeth Stitt wrote Parenting. It's beautiful. I actually think it's the best book in the series, the parenting book. I didn't write it, but Parenting as a Second Language is so good. Nancy Pia wrote Creativity as a Second Language, which is so much fun and just adorable and useful for anybody at all ages. And then Stacey Parker just wrote Grief as a Second Language, which is one of the most beautiful, gentle books I've ever read to address people dealing with grief and how to process grief. She's a grief counselor, and she did a great job. And I have authors come to me all the time and say, I would like to write this version of it. I would like to write this one. I would like to write Fitness as a Second Language, or, money management as a second language, whatever it is. I have to make sure they can fit in the series. They can fit in the tone of the series, the sort of gentle guidance, the non-judgmental, gentle guidance, a friend helping you through something. That's the tone all these books have. But once somebody has proven that they can write in that style, then they are just free to write it. They send me chapters. I edit it. I do some work on it. I make sure the language matches, like I said, with the series, so there's a consistent sound to all of the books. But yeah, so I have become a publisher de facto by the fact that there's so many topics that can be covered by this series that I'm not an expert on, but I definitely want our audience to have access to.
And then do they pay any type of fee to you for access to be able to use that series, or how does that work?
The way it works is I pay all the publishing costs. So the authors don't pay anything to me, and I don't pay anything to them. I pay all the publishing costs, and then we have a deal set up in terms of the royalties that we get paid on it. And I'm not going to give the specifics, but
Yeah, that's fine.
I recover my I recover my publishing costs, and then we split the royalties.
Cool.
And then they, because I'm the publisher, if they need copies of the book, they buy them from me, but they buy them at a substantial discount off the list price. And so then they can go sell them for any amount they want. So if somebody is buying a book from me and she can sell the book for $20 a book at a speaking event or at a local bookstore, she's free to do that. I have no control over it when she buys the books from me. We split the royalties we get from Amazon. And then we share the copyright. They're sole author, and I'm on the cover as edited forward. I write the forward on all of them.
Well, let's talk a little bit about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you've used in your book launch that worked well.
That's such an interesting question because I think it works different for so many books. For me, I think your best bet is to have a mailing list. I have a mailing list for happiness. It's called Speak Happiness, and it's the mailing list I started with, happiness as a second language. I started it too late. I wish it was in place before I published the book. But reviews on Amazon are incredibly important, and social media is incredibly important. So get your mailing list, build up your engaged audience, do things like your cover reveal, let them know, have raffles, have prizes within your mailing list, but make sure you have at least 20 people lined up who will buy your book from Amazon on the first day it's available and write a review within the first 3 days. And that's important on two levels. One, the reason you want them to buy the book from Amazon is that you want that little verified purchaser title next to their name when they write the review. Reviews on Amazon that don't come from verified purchasers, that could be your mom, and nobody wants that. That's number one. Number two, Amazon reviews really help your Amazon rankings. It really helps other people want to purchase your book. And I think most of us, we look at Amazon, if something only has like 3 reviews, you're saying, well, come on, like how many people have actually read this, and can this be any good? If you can get 20 reviews, and that's a high number, by the way, if you can get 20 reviews in the first week that your book is available, you're really coming out ahead. And the reason you want so many people buying it on that first day is you want that Amazon ranking. And then when you get that number 1 ranking in your category, you want to screenshot that, and then every time you talk about the book, I have the privilege of referring to happiness as a second language as the number 1 happiness book on Amazon. I can say it was an Amazon number 1 seller because there was a week that I did there's also all kinds of book promotion you can do. You can buy ads with BookBub and I think Book Gorilla and all of those. I did that about 6 months after the book came out. I had a week where I put it on sale for 99 cents. I did all of the promotion, all of the ads. I got a ton of people to buy it that week, and it became the number 1 happiness book on Amazon. And so I screenshot that, and then I use that in all kinds of marketing. I get to say it was the number 1 happiness book on Amazon because that's true. It was.
And it was number 1 for at least a week. Is that right?
I think it was number 1 for about 3 or 4 days. There was a book called Hardwiring Happiness. I'm trying to remember who wrote that, but Hardwiring Happiness was this big, very famous happiness author. I want to say Dan Gilbert, but I don't know if that's right. But his book came out the week that I did that promotion. This is one of my favorite things. His publishers, and it was published, probably spent $50,000 on Amazon ads that day. And it happened to be the same day that my sale was going on, and he never surpassed me that the first 3 days. He never went to number 1, and I feel kind of a little bit happy about that, but he hit number 1 very quickly after my promotion ended. He had, like I said, a large New York publishing firm and a big marketing budget behind it, and he did very well and continued to, but it was kind of fun for me that the day that book came out was also the day that my book had its big promotion.
Well, let's talk about your favorite book. So what is your favorite book, and what was the number 1 thing that you learned from it?
My favorite book is The Great Gatsby. I try to make a point of reading it again at least once every 2 or 3 years, just because I get more out of it every time. It moves me every time. So learn from it is, I read it the first time when I was in high school, and I come from a very, very modest background, and sort of that was my first view of wealth. It was my first view of seeing like that there were people in the world that had an enormous amount of money and they lived a very different lifestyle, and that they sort of got away with things. And I've always found that just fascinating as a view into that world. And I've had much more interaction with that world in my adult life, especially because previously I was a IPO lawyer and I was an investment banker. So I've gotten a firsthand view of wealth a lot. But the moment in it that I love most is when, not the main characters, not Gatsby and Daisy, but Nick and Jordan are riding in the car, and she's driving, and he says to her, you're a terrible driver. And she says, I know that, but I've never had an accident. And he says, well, that's just because you've never met another terrible driver. And that line applies to so many things in life. There's so many times we see people doing things just wrong or haphazard, and the only reason they're getting away with it is because they haven't yet hit the wall. They haven't yet met their match. They haven't yet run into another person who is doing the same thing or behaving the same way. And so there's a couple more things from that book that hit me like that. And yeah, it's just my favorite book.
And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
Ooh, I know this is, I'm trying to think of the things I quote the most, like the things I say to other people the most. And I'm sorry, I know this is a lot of dead air. Hopefully you will edit it out.
If you can't think of one, it's
sorry.
okay.
No. Let me give you, and this one isn't, it's nobody famous, or it might be somebody famous, and it was just my friend. My friend Nikki had cancer, and we were talking one day about something I was going through, and I, was being cognizant of the challenge that she had at the moment. And when I told her my whole situation, how bad it was, she looked at me and she said, just because something's happening to you, that doesn't mean it's about you. And that is a quote I get to use all the time, because that's absolutely true. I've had some challenges in my life that, based on what I've learned from them, other people have turned out to have gotten a much greater benefit. And so anytime something comes up, I have to think, all right, and that's good and bad. Amazing things could be happening to you that are also not about you. They're about the people you're going to help, or they're about the person who's watching and learns a lesson. So I think for me, that's the most important thing to remember in life, is just when something's happening to you, that doesn't mean it's always about you.
Well, Valerie, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Please go to speakhappiness.com. That's speak, SPEAK, happiness.com.
Well, Valerie, I want to thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thanks, Paul. Good luck with all this podcast, and good luck to your listeners. I think you're providing them such a great service, and this is so helpful. And I hope people start out on second base based on the things they learn from listening to you.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.